Every night, that cat stares at the same empty corner, as if the darkness there is not empty at all, but quietly waiting. Most people would call it strange behavior, yet nothing in its body looks curious. It looks braced, listening, like something already knows its name. It does not blink, does not meow, does not move away, because in that old house, silence is often the first warning. The owner sees only plaster, shadow, and peeling paint, but the cat sees a figure standing there, patient, still, and horribly familiar. At first, the cat reacted like any frightened animal
What
would.
is it? Hey!
With fur raised, spine stiff, claws scraping
don't
hard,
worry.
and a cry no one understood. It would bolt across the floor at midnight, not chasing prey, but escaping a presence that moved without footsteps and stopped without breathing. Sometimes it hid beneath the bed for hours, trembling so hard the blanket shifted, while the hallway outside remained empty to human eyes. Sometimes it hissed at the bedroom door, not because the wood threatened it, but because someone unseen had paused on the other side. The owner thought the cat was unstable, moody, maybe spoiled by attention, because people usually trust visible causes more than invisible dread. But fear changed shape once the cat realized not every spirit arrived with malice. Some simply entered carrying grief too heavy to leave behind. Those spirits did not chase it or touch it. They only lingered near windows, door frames, and bed corners, like people still searching. The cat began watching them the way animals watch storms, not with curiosity anymore, but with the exhausted caution of something that expects damage. Its ears no longer lifted with surprise. They lowered first, as if its body had learned sorrow always enters before danger shows. That is when panic became haunting, because the cat understood some dead visitors were not cruel, only lost, and loss can feel heavier. A human-shaped shadow by the stairs might stand there all night, doing nothing. Yet the cat would shake as if hearing buried sobs. No one else could see that sadness, so the cat carried it alone, trapped between instinctive alarm and a strange rising pity. Its silence grew deeper after each encounter, because repeated fear can turn inward and become the kind of loneliness nobody notices until it hardens. By day, the cat seemed calm enough, but calm was only the surface. Underneath, it was measuring rooms for the return of night. It would stop before certain corners, stare once, then leave quickly, as if memory itself had made parts of the house untouchable. The owner still saw a difficult pet, but the cat had already become a witness, reading absences the way other animals read scent. Some nights, a pale shape crossed the hallway slowly, and the cat did not flee. It only followed with wide eyes and rigid paws. That stillness was not bravery. It was recognition, the weary kind that appears when terror visits so often it begins to feel scheduled. The cat knew the difference between passing spirits and the ones that stayed, because the lingering ones changed the air around its whiskers. When a restless presence entered there, its body locked before its mind did. Tail low, shoulders tight, pupils wide, some breath suddenly shallow. Animals survive by noticing patterns, and this cat learned one terrible pattern early. Every new spirit carried a fresh wound through the house. Some spirits looked broken but gentle, like people still waiting for someone to answer a question they no longer had mouths to ask. Others had no face at all, only a fixed human outline, and those were the ones that sent the cat into raw despair.
Help! There's no
Whenever
face!
one of those blank spirits appeared, the cat cried out immediately, because emptiness where a face should be felt
Run!
impossibly wrong. It scratched doors, slammed its body against them, and tried dragging the owner away, not to protect territory, but to escape approaching ruin. The owner heard only chaos in those sounds,
Meow.
but the cat was sounding an alarm
Meow.
for something no human ear was
Hiss.
built to catch. That is why the saddest part is not that the cat sees the dead, but that it has learned to expect them. Expectation changes fear into burden, because what arrives every night no longer feels shocking. It feels like a duty forced onto fragile nerves. The cat stopped reacting like a startled animal and started reacting like a tired guardian who knows another sorrow is crossing the threshold. Even sleep became cautious, because resting deeply inside that house meant surrendering awareness, and awareness was the only shield the cat trusted. Some mornings, it stared at the owner's hand before accepting touch, confused by how warmth in daylight resembled the cold contact of night. That confusion is where haunting becomes exhaustion, because the body cannot heal when comfort and threat begin borrowing each other's shape inside it. The house itself became divided in the cat's mind, with safe places shrinking slowly and charged places spreading like stains across memory. A window corner, a stair landing, the edge of the bed. Each place kept the echo of whoever had stood there before. Because no one believed what it sensed, the cat slowly became lonelier than fear alone could explain, isolated by knowledge it could never share. Its eyes kept returning to emptiness, not from obsession, but from the helpless habit of checking whether grief had entered again tonight. There were moments when the spirits seemed to noticing them, and those were the moments that frightened the cat most. A spirit that wandered past was survivable, but a spirit that stopped and looked back made the room feel smaller than escape. It is hard to endure being watched by something silent, especially when its silence feels less empty than the people speaking nearby. So the cat learned tiny rituals of survival, sitting with its back to walls, pausing before doorways, and listening before every step. These were not quirks anymore. They were adaptations, the practical habits of a small body living inside a place crowded with unfinished goodbyes. Yet beneath all that vigilance, another feeling kept growing, softer than terror, stranger than instinct, and somehow heavier than either by then. The cat began feeling sorry for certain spirits, especially the ones that stood quietly near the kitchen, as if returning to a life. It could not understand their stories, but animals read tone before meaning, and grief has a posture even when language is gone. Some spirits carried such deep stillness that the cat no longer bristled. It only watched them with the ache of unwanted recognition. This is where the animal becomes almost tragic. Not because it understands death like a human, but because it feels unresolved presence. And unresolved presence wears down the nervous system day after day, until the cat seems distant even while lying beside the owner. The owner may stroke its back and receive no response, never realizing the cat is listening past that touch for another colder one. When night falls again, the cat resumes its impossible job, guarding a house where the living sleep through visits they cannot detect. It sits near the hall, ears tipped back, as if holding itself ready for whichever sorrow decides to step inside next tonight. And this readiness is not courage in the heroic sense. It is endurance. The thin, stubborn endurance animals use when leaving is impossible. Then comes the cruelest change of all. The cat starts mistaking the boundary between human presence and ghostly presence inside rooms now. A hand in daylight can calm it for a second, then suddenly make it flinch, because memory has taught touch to feel unreliable. That confusion does not make the cat mystical. It makes it tired, overstretched, and emotionally stranded between relief and dread every night. Still, the cat reacts more fiercely to faceless spirits than any other, because facelessness feels unfinished in a way instinct cannot forgive. When those figures appear, it howls toward the owner, claws the floor,
run!
and tries to herd safety away from the danger fast. To anyone watching, the behavior looks irrational, but from the cat's side, it is the clearest warning its body can give at all. No animal wants to live like a bridge between worlds, yet this cat keeps being pulled into that role against instinct's simpler wishes. It did not choose memory, mourning, or haunted responsibility. It only kept surviving long enough for terror to become routine inside it. And routine is what makes the story cruel, because routine means the cat still eats, sleeps, waits, and endures beside the unimaginable. Night after night, the house asks the same impossible thing from one small animal. Notice the dead, and keep living anyway still. Then one evening, the cat looks toward the kitchen and freezes in a way the owner has never seen before, in silence. There, near the old table, sits a spirit unlike the others. Not threatening, not faceless, only quiet with an unbearable sadness there. The cat does not arch, hiss, or run this time. It lowers itself slowly, as if recognizing someone the house has missed. This is the former owner, dead long ago, returning not to terrify the living, but to sit once more in memory's place. The cat watches with wide, shining eyes, and for the first time its fear opens into grief, so pure it stops fighting. Because this spirit carries no threat, only absence. The cat seems to understand that some dead returns simply to be remembered once. It steps closer without trust, yet without panic too, holding itself in that fragile middle space where sorrow hurts more than terror. The owner sees only a cat staring toward an empty chair, but the cat is meeting the only presence that feels sincerely human. On all the living in that house dismissed its fear as strangeness. Yet this one dead person seems to look at it gently. In that moment, the cat is no longer merely a frightened animal. It becomes the last witness to someone's remaining tenderness there. No ritual welcomes that spirit back. No human voice answers it. And only the cat holds still enough to acknowledge its return. What once felt like punishment now becomes a lonely form of mercy, because the cat can still recognize those the world has released. That mercy is heavy, though, because remembering the dead does not lighten a room. It makes silence feel fuller and harder to bear. After that night, the cat returns to the kitchen often, not in panic, but with the quiet patience of shared mourning there. It sits where the spirit once sat, as if keeping a place warm for someone who no longer belongs to warmth here. The owner may never know why that corner changed, only that the cat's gaze there now feels sadder than afraid at night. Because fear can fade when understanding arrives, but understanding sometimes leaves behind an ache much deeper than fear ever did before that. Now the cat listens to the house differently, not just for danger, but for the soft return of those still carrying goodbye. It has become the keeper of unnoticed departures, the small, silent life that remembers what the noisy world forgets almost immediately around it. This is why its eyes sometimes look older than its body, as if repeated witnessing has worn extra years into instinct itself. And this is why some animals seem distant after strange nights. A distance can be the cost of carrying what nobody else perceives. The cat did not ask to stand between laughter upstairs and sorrow in the dark hall, yet that became its whole existence. So when it stares into nothing, maybe nothing is not what stands there. And maybe its silence is heavier than we think. What frightens it most may not be death itself, but being the only living creature left to notice who never truly left. And in the end, the saddest truth is simple. The house forgets its dead, but the cat keeps seeing them and remembers.